morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this edition of the Tuesday Telecast from the Joyful Path. I'm super excited because Kevin Moreau is going to be here momentarily, and Kevin is a great friend of mine from France, and he is also known as Mr. Mingle. Now, one thing about Kevin and I is that we have attended schools together in which we explored our joyful path. And what Kevin has come up with is the Happy Misfits movement. So, what does that mean? I identify as a nonlinear thinker, and so is Kevin. And he is taking all of the people out there who think in different ways than the system, and he is highlighting them in the world and showing their worth and their value and their excellence. And that is really a cool thing because everybody has something. And the world needs your something. So this is what Kevin does is he shows up and he takes the Happy Misfits and is a happy misfit matchmaker. And I'm not saying he gets people together as couples, but more that he's helping them to identify with the place that they want to be in life. So I want to waste no more time and go and get Kevin into the house. Well, hello, Kevin, and welcome to the Tuesday Telecast at the Joyful Path. How are you?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much, Lydia, for inviting me. I am beyond thrilled. I can't wait to start this convo.
I am excited too. And as I told my audience, we have been friends from doing a lot of trainings in happiness and in how to get on, our own joyful path. And that is you have become known as Mr. Mingle. And you're this you do these marriages of misfits and not people, but of people's with their passions by bringing them together and getting the brilliance in the misfit in the brilliant minds that are unique in our society, where sometimes people are very steady and we think we have to be steady, and how beautiful it is to not be steady. So that's something that I really appreciate in you and what you're doing. So to start, can you just talk a little bit about what brought up your vision, your focus on being the misfit matchmaker mingler that you have become?
Wow, I love that question. So, yeah, there were many different steps. Actually, it was a long journey, and I'm trying to figure out a way to make it very short and concise, and maybe we will go, we'll explore some specific parts, but I feel the best way to start is really, the once upon a time way. Like I was just born that way. I was born different. I didn't necessarily realize that back in the days, but I thought different. I very recently started to acknowledge that I am a neurodivergent on the ADHD side of things. But to me, it's just label, right? I always knew I was thinking different. I was behaving different. I was deeply rooted in my core, different. And the things, so I enjoyed that when I was a kiddo. But other people around me, not so much. Yeah, many people were fighting very hard to stick into the norm, whatever it might mean. And I believe it's an absolute artificial construct. But still, many of my peers, when I was a kiddo, they were just trying to fit in. They were trying to stick together and to follow the rules and to come up with their own reality and their own identity. And it was their way to build that. When I was not taking the same path, I was embracing my difference, and actually I couldn't hide it. It was just bigger than me. It was like I couldn't hide it even if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I've been an outcast. I've been bullied from basically age 8 to 16, consistently. And the thing, what really messed me up at that time, and part of my bullies were my so-called friends. So it totally untangled love and pain, comfort and fear. So I had very mixed feelings about friendship and discrimination. It was all the same. So I didn't know, to me it was a big ball of whatever. I didn't know how to really to process that actually. Um, and so I don't want to go necessarily too deep into the details, but as you can imagine, it was very unpleasant to say the least. And I'm pretty sure most people listening to this amazing show have known some form of bullying or discrimination, because unfortunately it's extremely common. It might not take the form of bullying per se, but most people are discriminated for any number of reasons: gender, color of skin, religion, appearance, the way they think, the way they behave, the way they dress, you name it, right? So, long story short, it wasn't fun, but actually it created a very deep craving in me. I was famished for healthy, warm, good relationships
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't have at that time. And actually, it created a hole in me, and it destroyed me in a way. It was very toxic in a way, right? And it destroyed my self-esteem and self-confidence, etc. I became a very shy, very um, very deeply, yeah, very dark. Typical teenager, I became a metalhead, wearing dark clothes and trying to create an artificial armor of badassness when I was just a poor little kiddo, all lost and fearful, actually. And during that time, yeah, I had that hole that I was really craving to fill. And good news is I've been able to. I actually was able to build exceptional relationships over the years. So it didn't come easy. It didn't come in one snap, right? It came with time and intention and effort and many mistakes, countless mistakes and mishaps. Until actually at some point I look back and wow, look at that. I created an amazing social life. When actually at some point, to me, it was just all pain and darkness, the social life. So I've been able to really turn it around. So I would say it's really, to me, my origin story as a coach and especially as a social catalyst and a misfit empowerer, and really to help my fellow misfits and the ones that still haven't figured out a way to get on the other side of that darkness and that hole inside. And really, like, folks, don't worry, I got you. I've been exactly where you are. And good news, there are way out. We can get out of it. So I could give you many other milestones and stuff, but I feel that one is the most important.
It's huge. And we label these things so many different ways. We can talk about this as the hero's journey. We can talk about this as one way that I talk about it often is that the only way to the other side of pain is through. And it doesn't matter what the kind of pain what the pain is, but when we are on one side of it and we're staying in the pain because we're trying to put it under the rug, it doesn't go away. We have to go through it, which is scary, but we do that. And we have periods of darkness, but that's what brings the light. There's a purpose and a bravery and a passion and different sparks in each person that really help them get to that other side, that joyful path. The connections, I think you're right on the money when you say that we each have experienced this in some way. It's the bullies, if we take just the straightforward bullies, have been bullied themselves. And the only way that they came to rise up at some point in their life is to assume the less vulnerable spot, but it's because inside they are very much not secure. We need connection. We need love. I also have a neurodivergent path, and I embraced it, but I also, parts of it, I didn't. I know that I did quite a bit of masking, and I don't think I did it very well, but I could be wrong. Whatever. It's our path. And I remember saying to a teacher who I really had a good relationship with, that I felt like I was really alone. And she said, "You are so bright and shiny that people really look up to you, but they can't touch you." And it was an interesting way to look at it. And now like you said, we have these labels, but that's also our special spark and our way of, can I say that, have I been labeled with ADHD? Sure. And can I say that I am on the spectrum? Absolutely. Does it matter? How it matters is how I go toward my purpose. But I don't think that I always am able to go to my purpose, because we still, in our connection to other people, we still try to assimilate all the ways that they are working, and they are working in different ways than we are. So your position that you've created as a catalyst for relationships and for change is a really important one, and I'm really excited about it. It's and as you've done that, I have seen all sorts of people drawn to you. And so you have the Happy Misfits podcast, and I want to highlight that here, because that is something that I want to get the audience to look at, and because there really is a joy about this show of yours. It's getting people who really have a spark and a passion, and are the future. They're very much the future. So tell me about some of the your best moments on the Happy Misfits podcast.
Wow, that's a tough one, and I love it. I love it tough, that kind of difficult question that really makes you go deep and really think really think, not your typical in a snap answer that you already have handy. So it has been an amazing ride. Actually, this podcast kind of emerged naturally. At some point, I felt, you know what, I want to start that. I want to voice myself, and I didn't have any expectations
Mm,
about it. It felt just natural, like a natural extension of myself. Like I'm on a mission. I want to voice myself and highlight wonderful other misfits and show to my fellow misfits that we have the ability to be happy, even if we are a misfit, and actually, especially if we are a misfit. So I really wanted to highlight misfits that have been able to do exactly that, to be on the other side, that have been struggling, that have been, and that's something that really emerged the more I really worked with misfits, is that we have. So I don't like generalizations. So I won't say all misfits because I can't be sure. Yet I feel most misfits have, at least at some point in their life, they have felt that their difference was a weakness, a flaw, a stigma, something negative somewhat, something that was getting in the way, that were making them unable to achieve the success they wanted to, something that was setting them apart from other people, something that was a hindrance of sorts. So I feel we at least had some time in our life that feeling. And unfortunately, for many misfits, still they have that feeling that I am noticed, this is a weakness, I have ADHD, it gets in the way, I'm handicapped, it's the worst thing that ever happened to me, etc. And I'm not saying it doesn't come with a lot of pain and difficulties. I'm not saying that whatever challenge you're going through, you can't complain. You have to see it as a blessing. Absolutely not. There are many, there are many sides of that can be seen as negative. Absolutely. Yet I am absolutely convinced that it's also the source of our bestest superpowers. I will just give you an example. So I have many examples about that, but let's use an example from my own life. So I was born, I believe, or maybe I have built that, but I am a hypersensitive person. Like I believe you are as well, and like most artists are as well, I believe. And that made me. You mentioned, that we tend to put our feelings under the rug, etc. And actually, I feel many people trying very hard to fit in. They do that. I was absolutely unable to do that. I was hypersensitive. I wore and still wear my feelings on my skin. I'm just like I can't hide it. So I had a lot of feeling outbursts. It was just when something was triggering me in a way or another, I couldn't hide it. Like would very hardly hide it. So it set me apart. It made me different, and it was excruciating times and times again. It got in the way time and time and again, until I was able to release it as no, I see it.
mm,
It's one of my bestest superpowers. Me being super sensitive makes me feel higher, more beautifully, more deeply than other people. And to me, it's an incredible strength that comes with a price. And the price was much higher before, but now I can enjoy the benefits of that. And I really, I'm so happy of having been born with that. and I accept the price I used to pay for it, and I still pay for it nevertheless, because to me it's so worth it.
Mm, yeah. There's life is not, we would not feel, we would not have happiness and see exquisite beauty and to have the high feelings if we did not have the lows. We would not, feeling would not really exist if it didn't have the entire spectrum, because there's nothing to compare it to. We we need to have something. So some people feel like this, and some people feel like this. And but as you said, there's, you have like a higher high for that. You get that incredible epiphany of how beautiful things are. You also mentioned earlier, I want to bring this back, that you basically said there's no normal, and there's what is I what is normal? What is, we have, supposedly neurotypical people, and that the neurodivergent people are the ones who are different, but where is normal? Is it a statistic? Is it all of the people who like the color blue and who like to drive a certain car and who like to eat a certain food and who are a certain personality type and who are accountants? Or I mean, any accountant I know would say I'm not normal. What is normal? It's a ridiculous, it's a ridiculous benchmark. But I think what happened is that we is are fitting into, I've said this before, but are fitting into the industrial revolution, where for a while all of our schooling made us much more streamlined towards somebody who would work. I,
So it's a fascinating question. I love that one so very much. What is normal? So and it is a very personal definition. So I'm not saying, this is what science say or research say about the norm. And actually, I'm like, because I'm a giant nerd. I love learning. I love exploring research and data and other people's thoughts. But actually, I'm realizing, hey, you know what? I never did my research on that specific word, normal, and I'm like, that's super interesting. So until now, I will just go with my personal definition, and actually, I have two. And to me, the what most people call normal, to me, it's a kind of lukewarm compromise, so that no one will be left aside, that we will try to find a middle ground that will at least try to satisfy the biggest majority of people, and actually, which means that no one will fully be satisfied, and we will try to just, yeah, make basically damage control, which comes from very good intentions, probably, but
yes.
absolutely doesn't work. And then you have that very cultural norm that will change from one culture to another, from one continent, country, community to another. And that will also evolve over time. That our current norm is widely different from the 17th century norms, or the before Christ norms, etc. So it's a living thing, and it adapts to its local culture and temporal culture. And to me, it's an absolutely artificial construct.
Mm-hmm.
that kind of happen and is built over time, especially build over what Vishen Lacanis call the culturescape, right? Your specific culturescape, the many pillars and many core components of your culture. Now there is another norm that I feel much more interesting, and basically that we all have our own norm. What is normal to you, Lydia, is widely different to what is normal to me. Like to me, it's normal to play role-playing games, to when traveling, to have food as a red thread instead of watching ruins and museums. To like, I have very specific kinks and interests and beliefs and behaviors that I feel normal to me,
Mm.
and they're mine, and no one can ever ever discuss that. They might feel it doesn't resonate with their norm, but it's mine. So it's mine to choose, and it's mine to live by, and also to make evolve. Because sometimes I'm like, hey, you know what? That thing that I used to feel like a norm, maybe it's not so good. Like I very recently discovered that um, having a breakfast with sugar in it, especially like starting your breakfast with sugar, is probably one of the very worst move you could do in your entire day and your entire life. And you probably know that, or if you don't, I will tell you that the typical French breakfast is mostly sugar. Like basically, it would be bread, which is sugar, with jelly, which is sugar, and with like orange juice or which is extra sugar. So basically, you have pure sugar from the get going, when your body absolutely don't want that yet. After a while, sure, why not? So actually, I'm revamping, I'm pimping my own norm here, and I'm like, huh, look at that. I guess it has to evolve, but it's on me. I decide. It's my norm. It's my
Right.
life, and I have control over it. So to me, there are those two norms: the general norm and the individual norm.
Oh my goodness, this is so interesting. When we, well, it brings me to the ideas of the some of the happiness, the pillars of happiness in different cultures, but our responsibility toward ourselves when we take that, some people are very scared of that. I think we're all scared of that at first because we're shown that responsibility is a scary thing. But when we take responsibility just for ourselves and not for everybody else, and we don't have to be judgmental in a way that is hurtful. We we will look at something like the sugar in the breakfast, and we say, okay, it's really tasty. I like the way this tastes. I don't like the way I feel later. And the way I feel when I don't do this is better than the way that tastes. And the way that tastes isn't as good as it used to be, but the feeling I get from being healthy lasts. We can make those choices. We can say, I don't have time to deal with that change, and I am going to do what I do because I have other things that I want to change in myself. It's it's a our nature, even though a lot of people don't like change, is to change. And it's just to evolve, to have the responsibility to say, okay, I thought I didn't like sugar, but actually I feel a little better with a little bit in the morning, and I'm going to have it. Or I thought that I liked it, but I don't. Or I think I actually enjoy raw fish, and I never thought I would like to have it. Whatever it is, these are these are matters of us taking our own responsibility and taking that step into through the door and saying, I like it on the other side of this door, and continuing to go, because there might be a door that we step through that is better or is not as good. So thank you for bringing up that example. It's just the personal normal. Our personal normal is also, it changes as we get older, and we look at first and say, for me, I didn't realize at first that I'm synesthetic. I see and hear, and it's all mixed up, or it's all jumbled together, but not in a way that causes me any problems at all. It is perfectly fine. But when I first started to explain to people that about how pitches in music were very distinct, just like minerals in nature, and um, just like colors, and you can name them just because we have chosen to give them a name, but they are just as distinct as every individual aspect of nature. And nobody understood what I was talking about, because to me they were all mixed up. So that was my normal, but for a while it felt it like I didn't know how to communicate. And eventually I realized that, oh, I am normal for me, but people don't understand that. And I learned how to find what is normal in each person and listen to them and listen to their experience, and not put it into my normal, but to listen to their normal and find the common ground in it, which often just comes down to the feelings. If there's any common ground, it's feelings. So the and I'm going to shift here and say, you and I have connected on a number of topics of ikigai, the Japanese concept of having just satisfaction in the soul. And we've and that speaks to me a lot of this same subject. How are people finding their, as people who are misfits, finding their ikigai, finding their if not their purpose or their happiness, just finding that contentment in their soul, because they don't push away the parts that don't fit.
Yeah, it can be quite difficult, I believe. And yeah, once again, I don't want to make any generalization, but I feel that oftentimes, especially for misfits, our purpose and something that really fulfill us in immense way and with very intense depth comes from our very challenges, what we saw as our weakness, what we struggled with. Once again, what felt that was getting into the way. Actually, it's probably one of the things that can fulfill us, especially if we've been able to overcome it or to manage it in a smooth and graceful way, or really and like I like to share an example about that, which is absolutely striking. And in that case, it's interesting because it's another type of misfit. It's an accidental misfit instead of a natural born misfit. And you probably remember Christopher Reeve, the iconic Superman of before Henry Cavill. So the big one when not so many movies were released every year. When every single movie that was released was a big thing, but it was a big event, right? So at that time, Christopher Reeve, when he had done Superman, he was an absolute superstar. He was uh, ultra famous. He was revered. He was very wealthy, very well connected. Right, he had the best life you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And then he had a very bad accident, and he became paralyzed.
Yeah.
And to him, he felt like he was dragged into hell in a second. And obviously, he was infuriating. He was devastated. He went through so many different emotions. I have no idea. I have the chance to not be handicapped, so I have no idea. I have known many physical pains through my years as a dancer, but still nothing that can compare to what he's been through. And yet I remember, so a few years ago, I believe, there was uh, an article from a newspaper when actually he was telling to a journalist that if he were to go back and have the opportunity to spare himself from the accident, he wouldn't do it. Why is that? Why would he purposely, intentionally not avoid such a critical accident? Because actually, thanks to that accident, he realized that, hey, you know what? There were so many other people with handicap than him, which didn't have all the wealth, all the fame, all the connections that he had, and that were really in an even worse situation that he was. And thanks to all of his career that he built and all his connections, etc., he was able to help those guys and those folks, those other handicapped, his fellow handicapped. And actually, once he's been able to, to accept his new condition and find a way at least to manage and mitigate the damage, he actually found a very deep purpose and a very deep fulfillment in serving others, serving people that were in an even more difficult situation that he was. And thanks to that, and I have the feeling that he found his ikigai somewhat, or something similar to an ikigai, thanks to his accident and thanks to being handicapped. And if he never had that, he probably would have kept, playing in Hollywood environment, enjoying amazing parties, taking drugs, etc. And probably his life would have been very different and maybe quite miserable. Maybe not.
Maybe not. We can't say. We just have to go along the path that we go along and be exactly where we are when we're there. But if we do it instead of staying in the past, say, oh, my past was better, or their present is better. I want to be back to the past in the future. If that's not being present, and if we are present, even if it hurts, we can find what it is that really, how do we feel and why do we feel that way and what else do we feel? And there are those important conversations. I think another thing that Christopher Reeves has shown is not just that there are other people who have struggles and that their struggles require support, But also, what I like to highlight on this channel is to how he actually lifted himself up through his adversity, through his pain, in order to help them. He wasn't just another struggling person who needed support. He was able to support himself and help others. And so that's also an example to people who are in a position of, I'm different. I can't speak. I can't move. I can't, whatever the handicap is, to looking at what can I do? And as I go from where I can, the path opens up. I think it's a great example. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. You have some programs that you are doing now that help the misfits in the world, however you identify yourself as a misfit. I think there's more misfits than ever as people are jumping their jobs and saying, I now see that this is possible, and I'm not happy doing this. I really want to become a professional bowler. I really want to whatever it is they want to do. And suddenly people who weren't maybe a misfit before realize that, oh, I really am a misfit. I really don't want to do what I'm doing. So how do you help them? What do you have? Maybe not every single way, because I know that you have a lot of ways that you do this, but what do you have coming up for people who need to connect to their ikigai, for people who need to connect to other people who are misfits like them?
So thank you so much for this question once again. And yeah, it's a new iteration of my previous program that I'm super excited about. So actually, that's the root of that initial program. It is one of the reasons we connected with that you mentioned through Ikigai, because I came up with a concept that I call Ikigais, and to make it short, basically the idea is really to finding purposeful and purpose bringing people and surrounding ourselves with a high quality, high value, exceptional close friends of us that will really elevate us and nurture us in the bestest way possible. And of course, you want it to be a two-way street, right? You want also to elevate those other people. So you really want to elevate. And so right now I will release in a few weeks now a new iteration and really focusing on helping my fellow misfit entrepreneurs, which actually is almost redundant because yeah, there are so many entrepreneurs that are misfits because we tend to hardly fit into a system, a very corporate, very rigid, very conservative system, of traditional work. So when we are misfits and when we are highly misfits, we have high chances to turn towards entrepreneurship, because so we can create our work our way. We can go and create our own way to express ourselves and share beautiful value to the world. And that's the thing. So I'm a returning entrepreneur. It's my second run at it, and I learned the very hard way, that you absolutely want to have the very best surroundings. Because the first time I failed miserably. I already had an amazing circle of friends. I already had an amazing support system that was available to me, but I didn't carve out the time to spend with them. I was grinding. I was, head nose on the wheel, and I was just grinding my way, and I was not seeing them as often as I should and could, and I was not necessarily listening to their very good advices. And guess what? I ended up with a very severe burnout, then with a deep depression that took 3 years of my life. And actually, looking back, I now see that depression as a beautiful gift. I'm not kidding you. It has been one of the deepest, most powerful gifts I ever had. An amazing fertilizer to my growth. So it was amazing. It brought me a lot of goodness.
Yeah.
Still, being stuck into that for 3 long years didn't feel so good. I could have enjoyed the growth without the pain. So whenever I can, I try to go that way. We can't always choose, right? But yeah, basically, long story short, I really realized how a fool I had been to not spend the time with amazing friends I already have. Now imagine all the people that are doing that entrepreneur journey by themselves and they don't have yet that powerful surrounding of friends. And they absolutely want that. And the thing is, it goes beyond that. And to me, I really see it as 3 different layers that are equally crucial. Most entrepreneurs, they see the value when they understand the value of the network and connections. They know their career and business is directly linked to that the iconic cliche and the most corny saying, your network is your net worth, is actually very true. It's cliche for a reason, because it's absolutely true. So most entrepreneurs, they know the value of that, but they don't necessarily have the best tools to really play with that, especially if they are shy, they have social anxiety, if they are introverts, etc. It might be a challenge for some people. So there's this extremely important layer. Then the one I just mentioned, the friends and partners. You want to have the healthiest circle of friends and partners around you to really support you, and even more. So I call it a thriving system, not just a support system, a thriving system that not just makes you sufficient. You know, right, the um, lack, sufficiency, and abundance concept, right? You don't want just to settle to sufficiency when you're an entrepreneur. Your mission is bigger than you. You want to go to abundance. Otherwise, you probably will struggle for a long while. So you want a thriving system, not just a support system.
Yeah.
And then the deepest layer that many people forget is the self-care, is to be your own best friend forever, to be sure you're on your side no matter what, and you're one of your ikigais, you're one of your major pillars in your life, and you do whatever it takes to make sure you have self-care, you take care of yourself, your needs, you have your rest, your recovery, you have your routines, well-being routines, etc. Because if you don't do that, nobody will do that for yourself. We only have one life. No one can live our life for us. So we better have those 3 layers in our relationships: connections, friends, and ourselves. If we really want to achieve something meaningful as an entrepreneur. At least it's my belief, but believe me, I learned that lesson the hard way, so I'm not doing that anymore.
Wow. So much wisdom there that it's difficult to even respond. I'm thinking though about the fact that if we've let relationships go in the past, again, that's kind of a type of pain that we grow from, and we and learn and make even better relationships. And also, those people, they a lot of them will forgive us, and they are still there. They are still there because we have to give ourselves the grace to go with the flow that we're in and not fight that flow. And while we're going, we may find that we don't have it all right because we're learning all the time. So when we can't go with the flow, we need to be gentle with ourselves, and hopefully we will get some of those connections back, because you're right, the connections are the most important thing, but we are the core of that connection. And it doesn't matter if we are an introvert or an extrovert. We just can be connective and take the downtime, but we can learn from other people how to do that more efficiently. I think entrepreneurs more than not are in a space where they go through a struggle, and hopefully somebody who is an excellent role model or an excellent coach, an excellent teacher, an excellent leader shows us the way to perhaps go past some of the struggles so that we can make the leap, and then we can be even better uh, leaders and teachers and guides for other people along the way. It's sort of how we make progress. It's not that somebody coming to us won't have any struggles, but that they will have their struggles and be able to leap ahead and, possibly have even bigger struggles, but that they'll be in their purpose. So when is your next program coming up? Are you where you are going to your next iteration, as you said? Is this going to be coming up this spring or in the okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will host a free masterclass on April 16. And actually, I will bring in the mix a mini guide that I'm cooking up, and I'm super excited to share that because I've been networking in person for many years now. So because since my first run as an entrepreneur, and actually even before, and I collected my most yummy strategies, tactics, and tips for in-person networking. And really, it's what had the most important impact on my growth back then. It was more, the social media wasn't that much of a thing back then. It was kind of starting. And really in person. And even though many people feel, yes, we want to be online, social media is very important. We want to master that skill. Absolutely, you better. Like, you want to connect online. It's extremely powerful. Yet there is nothing like in-person networking because you have chemistry. Like for music, for example, you could watch a DVD, you could listen to an MP3, but going to a live event, a live concert, it's totally different. You have sweat, you have all the energy in the room.
Yeah.
You can have a very good idea of the real genuine vibe, and like whatever you believe. What is very interesting in the whether you are religious, spiritual, or scientific, all those concepts gather around the idea of everything is energy, no matter what. everything in this entire universe is energy in one way or another. And really, in person allows you to grasp that energy, to taste that energy. So you want to master in-person networking. It's extremely important. So I will share very yummy pieces of how to ace your in-person networking as a misfit entrepreneur. So that's in the mix for free if you join. And yeah, and then I will have another event, a follow-up free event, more like a workshop, and really play and get your hands dirty, so to speak. So it will be online. I would love to have the in-person version, but for now it will be online. So that's what lines up so far.
Well, we can connect online, and then we can have vital connections later if we so choose, once we've connected online. That's There are too many people to connect to all of them all the time and figure out which ones are, but when we connect online, we can say, oh, I want to go to France. I want to go to Nairobi. I want to go to Botswana. Yeah, and then see this person and connect. So and eventually that will happen. And there are coincidentally connections right near us who are absolutely vital and beautiful that we can connect with. So I think that's an invaluable skill, as well as the social networking, because a lot of people are not so comfortable with that, because even if they were comfortable with it 5 years ago, it was different than it is now. It's evolving in a interesting and beautiful way. So April 16th, and that will be on what social platforms, or will it be on Zoom? How will people find that?
So very, very good question. So it will be on Zoom. I love Zoom. I love the proximity and the intimacy of Zoom rooms. So the event in itself will be on Zoom. It will be recorded, but still, as I'm like, the live is always better to me. In-person live, obviously, but you probably want to be there because the first event will be more webinar style, would be more me sharing very yummy pieces around that synergy I mentioned for that ecosystem between relationships. But still, so it will be on Zoom. Yet my playground is LinkedIn. It's when I have the most fun. It's my sandbox, where we reconnected a few months ago, where the hounds of business are rolling. So if you want to find me, it's where I will put the most information. I'm not playing with Instagram or Facebook yet. I might never, to be honest, because yeah, it's like neurodivergent, right? I can't focus that much. So for now, I'm just sticking to the LinkedIn platform, and we'll see what happens. So if you're curious, follow me on LinkedIn. That's also where I have my podcast, like the Happy Misfit Podcast. And Lydia, you will soon be one of my guests, and I can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be great. And that also is shared on YouTube, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for that one, because I tend to forget. I'm very, very bad at promoting my YouTube channel. For now, I have 23 followers on YouTube. It's still better than zero, right? But yeah, feel free to have a look and check if you like the podcast. All the recordings of the Happy Misfits podcast are in one place on the same playlist on my YouTube channel. So if you enjoy my podcast, feel free to subscribe and follow, and you will enjoy Lydia, not as a host for a change, but as a guest. And it's going to be an amazing conversation, I know.
I'm looking forward to that. And the so for everybody watching, write down in the show notes, there is the link to the Happy Misfits podcast on YouTube, as well as and I will update this as it needs updating, but you're the link to the masterclass that Mr. Mingle, my friend Kevin, is going to have on the 16th of April. So look down there and ways to connect with Kevin. So thank you so much for coming on my show and being here as part of the ethos of the joyful path. This is just a marvelous thing, and you are a great joy in my life.
Thank you so much, Leah. Yeah, I really so deeply appreciate what you just said, and yeah, thank you so very much for this invitation. I was genuinely thrilled to be on your show. Tons of fun, an amazing conversation as always, and yeah, you are extremely dear to me as well. So I'm so happy that you're my life, and we've been following each other for a while now in different containers and connecting, as you mentioned, through different interests and different facets. So yeah, it's fascinating how we deepen our relationship over time. So yeah, relationships.
And that's the mic drop right there is the relationships. So thank you, Kevin, and I will see you next time on your show.
Yes, can't wait.
Thank you for being here for that conversation. That was Kevin Moreau, Mr. Mingle. And if you are interested in taking that class, as he is just magical, on April 16th, this is 2024. If you're looking at this in the future, it may have already happened, but he'll have other offerings. So look down in the show notes. That is there, and that will be updated as we get closer if it needs to be. And also follow his Happy Misfits podcast channel here on YouTube, and that's also down in the show notes. You will not regret it. It is just a great show. I appreciate you. If you liked this, please hit like, and I would love it if you would share and also subscribe yourself. Just gently push that subscribe. And I will see you next week on the Tuesday telecast from the Joyful Path. Ciao.